and you guys are here for a very, very awesome panel that is about to occur with one of the hottest movie stars, hottest television sensations, and pretty much everyone's favorite comic book hero. He really needs no introduction, but I want to introduce him because that's awesome. He is the one, he is the only, he is Stan Lee.
Thank you, true believers. Now, this gentleman next to me is a troublemaker. He's my associate, my bodyguard, because I have a lot of people here from D.C. And also, I don't hear as well as I used to, so if anybody asks a question, I might not hear it. This man has ears like a hawk. So, or is it eyes? Whatever.
Your wife just called. I just heard your wife.
So he'll tell me what it is you say. Unfortunately, he won't give me the answer also. I pay him double for that, but that'll be up to me to answer it. And I guess we're about ready to start. How does one start this sort of event?
It's your show. It's the house that Stan built.
Well, I've already said all I have to say, so I can go home now.
Well, we'll start off with some questions. Let's get into it right away. Let's start with the left.
I don't want to hear a question like, what the hell are you doing here anyway? Let's be a little more polite.
Go ahead, man.
What is your favorite superhero that you created besides Spider-Man?
Oh, you're making it tough for me. Besides Spider-Man? I always say Spider-Man. Now I have to think. You know, the thing is, I love them all. I mean, you could mention any one, and I could say that's my favorite. But let me think for a minute. My favorite besides Spider-Man. Let's see, there's the X-Men. There's the Fantastic Four. The Avengers! See why I keep them around? The Avengers.
To the right.
Hi. I was very curious. What's your favorite cameo in all of the Marvel movies?
That is a tough one. That is tough. You may not know it, but I've done more than one cameo. In fact, somebody told me the other day, there are a lot of movie stars and so forth, but there's only one guy who's a cameo star. I've got the field all to myself. So when they have the next Academy Awards, they better have a thing for the best cameo of the year.
Yeah.
Now you people have great influence. So the minute this panel is over, I expect you to contact your congressman, your senator. You can tell Trump if you want to. I want that cameo award.
There you
What
go.
was the question? I forgot. My favorite cameo. Well, I thought the one that I did, I think it was in the Avengers, where I want to have a drink that Thor is drinking, and he says, it would be too strong for me. I said, come on, and I drink it. And in the next scene, they're carrying me out. It's typical of the way I live my life anyway.
Next question.
What is it about conventions that brings you to so many of them?
Why do we go to so many conventions?
What makes you come to the conventions? Why?
Why do I come? You know, now that you mention it, why am I here? You know, you never told me I could stay home if I wanted.
This is a little funny thing, guys. Every year we do our convention. Starting in January, we lay everything out. Around October, Stan comes up next. I'm done. No more. I go, okay. No big deal.
He doesn't care.
I don't care. Come December, January, hey Max, where are we going? I said, we're not going anywhere. Why? Because you said you don't want to do anything. Okay. Come January, his wife is telling me, get him out of the house. He's going crazy. She rules the house. He has this one little room, that's his little kingdom. And that's all he can touch. The minute he steps out of there, it's like, well, this needs this right here, and let's move this over here. Get him out, Max, he's driving me nuts. So that's why you go to conventions, to get you out of the house.
You will notice that he manages to make his answers a lot longer than mine.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Welcome to the Max Show.
Yeah.
With the accompaniment of Stanley.
Something like that.
What was the question? What was the answer?
Well, your question is, why do you go to conventions?
Oh, you took care of that.
No, I answer why.
Oh, and I'm saying why I go to conventions. I love conventions because I love the fans. I love seeing your enthusiasm. I love the fact that every year there are more and more, and the ones who used to be young fans are now older fans, but you're still fans.
And they bring the kids.
The thing about superheroes and comic books and that whole world, you stay in it once you get in it. You can't get out. It's like you're trapped. I'm still trapped. But it is fun coming here, autographing, doing a panel, doing photos and stuff, and it's a great feeling, and that's why I do it, because I like to feel great.
There you go.
Thank you. Stanley, man, thank you so much for coming to San Jose. I just wanted to say it's an honor. You helped found Marvel Comics 77 years ago, and I wanted to ask you what you envision for the next 77 years of Marvel.
Oh, I envisioned that 77 years later I'd be in San Jose. No, I tell you the truth, in the early days when I started at Marvel, all that I could hope for was that the books would sell well enough that I'd keep my job and be able to pay the rent. We didn't have fans like we have now. And if we get any fan mail, we get a letter, and it might say something like, I bought one of your books and there was a staple missing in the binding, I want my money back. We'd hang that on the wall, we'd say, look, we got a fan letter. Things have changed a bit. But, now what was the question again? I tend to wander off.
What do you see for the next 77 years?
By the way, it sounds to me like every question comes from there, is it? Really? But even when it came from there, it sounded like it. Is there a loudspeaker or something there? So if I hear it from there, that doesn't mean the person is there. The person could be anywhere. Oh, the wonders of science. What was that question again? Well, I think the future is going to get better and better for you fans. You're going to get movies that are more and more exciting, more and more unusual, because the people doing these movies now are not just businessmen, but they're people who are fans themselves. And they're trying to do the kind of movies that they would want to see. And they're talented as hell. I can testify to that because I meet them and I'm jealous of all of them. And all I can tell you is you're in for a great time. From all the Marvel movies, and then there's that other company, D something. They may come up with something too, and there are even new outfits that are getting into the thing. There are game companies, like you probably just saw the thing there for the new game, Warcraft. See, I have a good memory, if you tell me. And so it's going to get exciting. I envy you, because oh, I have a lot of movies myself I'm coming out with. And I have a company called POW, P-O-W, which of course you've all figured out stands for Purveyors of Wonder. And we're working on a couple of movies. I have a new character, a new superhero called the Annihilator. And you'll be seeing the Annihilator next year. And we have 3 or 4 others that are in the works. And we have a television series. You know, people are always asking me, what power do you think would be the greatest superpower of all? And I think they're a little surprised when I say luck. Because if you're lucky, you've got everything. A guy shoots you, the bullet misses, you know, all those things. But I never did a lucky superhero, because what kind of costume do you give him? I can't think of any costume that represents luck. But anyway, I came up with an idea for a TV show about a guy who's unusually lucky. we sold it in England. It's called Stanley's Lucky Man. And they just renewed it. It was on one season, they just renewed it for the next season. It looks like it's becoming a hit, and it'll play here in the States pretty soon. So you watch for Lucky Man, wait for The Annihilator, and we have about 3 others that we're working on. So next year, the end of next year is going to be exciting to you. Of course, it'll mean nothing to me. I'm used to this stuff. But anyway, I don't remember. Did I answer the question?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I never can remember.
Next question right here.
Hi, Stan.
I'm from there again. And you look over there, that confuses the hell out of me.
So, when I was a kid, you could get comic books anywhere. You could get them at a newsstand, in a convenience store, at the grocery line. And with all the newer forms of media out, I personally prefer the print copy. What do you see the future of print comic books?
Oh, I think there'll always be print copies. I think people always love to read. And every time a movie is a hit, like Star Wars, I think Marvel already came out with 10,000 editions of Star Wars. So there'll always be comic books. You have to worry about that. The price will go up. Every few years, it'll go up a couple of pennies, but what do we care?
That's true. Right here.
Somebody already asked you what your most favorite cameo is. I'd like to ask you what your least favorite cameo is.
I don't think I have any cameos I didn't like. Well, yeah, okay. But you have to ask me what my reason for disliking it is.
Why did you dislike it?
See, you have to control the audience. You play them like a fiddle.
And he says he doesn't hear things, right?
My least favorite cameo was like the second one I ever did. It was a Spider-Man movie, and somebody is I think Spider-Man is gonna fall, or his aunt is gonna fall, or someone from a building, and everybody is looking up and going, ooh! And I'm one of the guys looking up going, ooh, for 1 second. And I resented that because it didn't give me a chance to show the full power of all my acting extraordinary. And I had a long talk with the director after that. He apologized, of course. I think in the next one, I was looking at another accident, and they gave me another second to go, ooh, like that. And that made it better. Get into the spirit of the thing. No, but seriously, I don't have any non-favorite cameos. It's just such fun to be there. And, you know, when I go to the studio, I never know what I'm going to do. It's not as if I have a script. But who'd have a script for going, oh? I walk in and they say, okay, stay. Oh, I'll tell you another thing that always happens and it kills me. I walk in and I'm wearing what I usually wear. Let's say a pair of jeans and a shirt and a pair of sneakers, maybe a sweater. So they say you have to go to wardrobe. So I go to wardrobe and the guy or the girl in there says, Mr. Lee, you have to wear these jeans and these sneakers and that sweater and this shirt. And I say, well, I'm already wearing exactly the same thing. No, you've got to wear our jeans and sneakers. Like anybody knows the difference. But I got to spend 15 minutes changing my clothes and worrying they may steal my socks when I'm up there. Not easy being a cameo star.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Am I hearing people? They're speaking clearly. You're the guy. All of a sudden, he's the guy I can't hear that well. You know, enunciate more carefully.
Which one of the superhero costumes is your favorite out of all the movies?
Superhero costumes? Is that what he said? Costume?
Favorite superhero.
What are you pointing there for? It absolutely came from me. You're right.
It's over there.
Oh, there's somebody standing. Are you the person?
He's right there.
Yeah.
I see a figure standing. Which is my favorite costume?
Yeah, out of all the movies.
I think no, I can't say Dr. Doom because they never gave him the right costume. If they had given him the right costume, it would be Dr. Doom. I love his costume.
Oh,
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why I don't consider Dr. Doom a criminal or a villain. What does the poor guy want to do? He wants to rule the world, right? All right. Any one of you could want to rule the world. You walk up to a cop right outside and you say, "Officer, I want to rule the world." He can't arrest you. It isn't a crime to want to rule the world. So why is Dr. Doom considered a villain? I'm going to write a story about that one day. People should... Oh, something else that's even more important. The word comic book. I know you've all wrestled with this problem, but I'm going to solve it for you. So many people write it as two words. Comic book. No, for you I should go. Comic book. You can't write it as two words because that means a funny book. A comic book, right? It should only be one word, a comic book, when there's no space between the two words. It's something like nothing else in the whole world. It's a comic book, not a comic book. So I want you all, the minute this panel is over, I hope you know the name and address of your congressman. But really, get on it. It's quite important because it upsets me when I see it written as two words, and I know you don't want me to be upset. It's perfect. I excel at perfection.
Go ahead, superstar.
Does it give you a great feeling of power being
What?
one?
No, it's,
I mean, there might be two
like this.
You go, you. That person there figures, why didn't he pick me? You come to think of that.
Do you ever feel like you're comedy relief up here?
Okay, well, first of all, Stan, thank you for years and years and years of awesome, iconic, relatable characters that we all grew up with. We appreciate you. You're a creative genius.
He said something like that, and he's the guy I couldn't understand. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I appreciate the fact that you're so good at recognizing people. No, thanks a lot. If you're over there, I hope you're going to write.
Yes. Okay. All right, also my question is...
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah.
First, I see. You start off with a compliment to get me off guard. Now comes the question. The annihilator. Okay.
All right, so now that Spider-Man is finally part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what Spider-Man villain that we haven't seen in a movie yet would you like to see in an upcoming Spider-Man movie, and why?
I can't even remember all this. I don't know, have we used the Green Goblin or the Vulture lately?
Many, many times.
Yeah. So who haven't we used? Mysterio.
Carnage!
All right. If we haven't, look, I'll pick anybody that we haven't used. Max says Mysterio. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, old school, right?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Old school guys.
Mysterio happens to be my
See how simple life can be if you just approach things calmly and you don't get too excited.
All right. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
All right, young man.
Hi.
When somebody says hi, you shouldn't just sit there. You have to say hi back again. Because hi means how are you? It's short for how are you. So if somebody is saying to me, hi, I'm not going to just sit here like a bump on a log. I'm a polite person. Hi to you. Now we can get on to the matter. See, I try to teach you things as we go along. I want you to leave this panel a better, wiser person.
Okay, my question is, what does it feel like having your creations on the big screen?
It feels good. Again, I try to be truthful. No, it's incredibly exciting. And every time I see these movies, the only bad thing, of course, is I feel if I had done the movie, it would have been still better, but I can't do everything.
Well, your cameo's better.
Well, my cameos make it, though. They make up for the difference. No, but seriously, it is a great feeling, seeing something that I had written as a comic book story 1,000,000 years ago. And there it is on the screen, and they're pretty loyal to the way the thing had been created and the way we established the characters. I beg your pardon. You would have done it better? What?
I would have done your cameo better.
You would have done my cameo. Will you leave the stage? Seriously, I don't need you any longer.
Think about this.
Ever.
Think about this. Everybody saw his cameo in Thor, right? The truck.
Which one was that?
The one you were in the truck and you're pulling out the hammer.
I pulled the whole truck came apart.
Yeah, yeah.
The hammer stayed there.
See, but this is my version. I kind of pitched to them, and they kind of looked at me like, you know, what are those? But here, I'll let you guys think about this one. His cameo would have been, the hammer gets knocked down to Earth, right? Hits the crater, and then you know what happens from there. But in my cameo version, the hammer bounces out the crater, hits the side of the road, and it's sitting there. Next scene, you see 2 feet walking. It almost trips over the hammer. Camera pans to Stan, and Stan says, "What's this doing here? Somebody can get hurt." Picks up the hammer and tosses it back into the car. That would have been the cameo. But I wasn't big enough, so they looked at me like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Read the inscription.
I will never again share the stage with someone who gets a bigger laugh than I do. I hope you're enjoying this because it's the last one.
Oh, here's one more. And this is another funny one.
Welcome to the Max panel.
No, it's a little inside thing, because I go to his cameos all the time. Here's one. Do you guys remember the scene in Dark World? His cameo? You know, the one that they take away your shoe and he said, "Can I have my shoe back?" Remember? But this one was a better one. They did several scenes, and it was a bunch of people decided, no, we'll go with this one. Well, one of the scenes he recorded, the guy says, "It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful." And then he turns around and he says, "I've been telling you, I created this universe. Let me out. I'm telling you, I'm the one that created it." And the director's like, "Nah, that ain't never going to work." But
He's afraid I'd steal the movie with all that acting.
But it was referring to all the Marvel characters because the way they were explaining it, but it was all edited out. But that would have been his cameo for creating the Marvel Universe.
May I speak now?
Go ahead.
One amazing thing, and I know you're interested in amazing things, that's why I'm telling you this. The one amazing thing about these cameos is, and I never expected this to happen, but the stars of all of the movies, they see the cameos, obviously. Every time a new movie is starting, the star walks over to me, "Stan, how should I handle my role?" Because the way you do your cameos, it's a little embarrassing. Downey Jr., I call him Bob, you call him Robert, but of course Will is that. Bob Downey Jr., he never stops. "Stan, how should I play this scene? How should I play that scene? Am I getting into the iron armor gracefully enough?" I give him what pointers I can, but hell, he's got to learn to shift for himself. It's a tough world out there. Hey, if you're listening, I'm only kidding.
Hi Stan, thanks so much for creating a character such as Spider-Man who's relatable with the difficulties in life. And my question to you is, when they're casting characters for Spider-Man throughout the movies, are you there along and kind of analyze the person who's acting in the role?
Actually, I have nothing to do with it. I'll be waiting for the movie to come out, and I'll be watching it with as much interest as you. The good thing about all of these things is that I don't take responsibility anymore for anything. They call me when they need a cameo. Everything else I read in the paper or I talk to fans. Or Max tells me what's going on. He knows more about it than I do. And I kind of like it that way because now I'm always surprised. I'm like you. I don't know what's coming next. I see it. I enjoy it. Well, I don't enjoy it that much. I usually say I could have done it better, but you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking. That was very nice of you to go to that trouble, and it is appreciated. Am I pointing the right way?
He's right there.
Oh, it's okay.
Big man like this. He's at the 1 o'clock angle.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. No.
Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, by the way, you're a great audience, in case nobody told you. Thank you.
What's the first characters you ever created?
The first character? When I was a little kid, I used to draw my own comics, but they were just like stick figures. I would draw a horizon line, not vertical, a horizontal line across the page. And then I would draw these very simple little figures running along the horizon, shooting at each other. I was violent even as a kid. The characters were always shooting each other, and they'd fall down. I was so good at drawing characters that fell down. Every page had a dozen characters who were shot and falling down. And what was the question?
Your favorite character?
My favorite what?
Character. What was the first characters you ever created?
Oh, well, so the first one I created was a little guy when I was about 7 years old on the horizon line, but I know that isn't what you're referring to. So I think the first one, when I started working at Marvel, which then was called Timely, and I was working for Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, who hired me. They were the greatest, let me tell you. Anyway, they asked me at one point to come up with a new character. And I came up with me it was just getting a name. So I got the name The Destroyer. And I think that was the first one I had ever done. Then I wanted to get something about time travel, a science fiction story. So I did one called Father Time. Although he was called Father Time, he wasn't really a father, he was a young guy. But so those were the two, The Destroyer and Father Time. Neither of them became superstars, although the name The Destroyer, I think we used many years later in our... Pardon me? He's still involved, that's right. He's still around there destroying things. So those are the two. And as far as I can remember, there may have been more, but that was quite a few years ago.
Cool, go ahead, bud.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, my name is Julian, and I'm a young actor. And who would you say the best and worst actors you have worked with?
Oh, I don't work with any worst actors because they only hire the best actors, so I'm off the hook there. Now, I've got to tell you, I have such respect for the actors. Everyone. I don't know a bad one. I really don't. The only one, and it's not his fault. What's the name of the guy again who plays the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Colonel? Colonel Fury.
Sam Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. He's a friend of mine. He's a wonderful actor, but I think they don't make him tough enough in the movies he's in, or in the television episodes. Yeah. When I wrote Colonel Fury, he was tough as nails, and they make him a little too calm now. I'd like to see him ripping into people and yelling and screaming, like I do. But he's a wonderful actor, and I can't think of any actor we've had in any of our movies where I would have said, gee, they shouldn't have used him, they should have gotten somebody else. They're all good. Maybe they're so good because the characters they play, so many of which I had something to do with, are such great characters that you can't not act them well, right? Anybody can play those characters. They're wonderful. I figured I had to say it. You might not have gotten around to it.
And also, as the last thing, thank you so much for creating the best comic characters anyone could have.
I like that person. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Go ahead, little dude.
What inspired you to make comics?
Greed. Didn't think I could give a one-word answer, did you? Now that's all. I was getting paid for it, so if I had gotten paid for designing shoelaces, I'd design shoelaces. It was just important to make money, and writing comics really was quite easy for me, so it was like getting paid to play. Because when you work on comics, you're playing, you're having such fun. Your imagination is running free. It's like when you were a kid, you read fairy tales. Well, doing these comics, it's like doing fairy tales for older readers. You have the same type of characters. In fairy tales, you have witches and goblins and dragons and all sorts of giants. And in superhero comics, you have the same type of thing. So again, I forgot the question, but that's the reason for whatever it was that was asked me.
There you go. Next question.
Hi, my question is,
This is going to be a serious one, I think.
yeah, no, it's here somewhere. If you could work with any author, dead or alive, who would you work with?
Any
Author, yeah.
author, dead or alive? I think maybe Conan Doyle, who did Sherlock Holmes, because I love the way he could make you feel you knew that character as if that character was your brother. I knew Sherlock Holmes better than I know him. Well, of course, there's not much to choose between. Did I spell that whole thing on you?
It was my fault.
This is why they don't invite me too often.
My fault.
All right, we own a bottle of water. But anyway, I think Conan Doyle. I think maybe the next one would be Shakespeare. Nobody could write like Shakespeare. And his characters. I don't know if you're familiar with Julius Caesar, but when he has Mark Antony make his speech, you know, friends, Romans, countrymen, everybody knows that, but nobody knows, not as many people know Brutus's speech, which was Romans, countrymen, lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to my honor, that you may believe. It goes on, and it's brilliant. Except it wasn't as good as Mark Antony's speech, because they kill him after that. Anyway, those are the two authors that I kind of get a kick out of.
Thank you.
Go, let's keep going.
Thank you for the question.
Hi, Stan. There's a...
Hi. You mustn't not say hi when somebody says hi to you, or you're impolite. Hi.
So there's a Captain America Civil War movie coming out in May. Are you on Team Captain America or Team Iron Man?
Oh, I haven't made up my mind yet. I have to read both of what they say, and I have to give it a lot of thought. I mean, decision. I don't arrive, am I looking the right? I don't arrive at decisions lightly. I'm going to think about it. I'll talk to my associate, Max, and do something different than what he suggests. And, no, I really don't know. Until they start writing the series, I won't know who I sympathize with. Since they're all good guys, my guess is I'll sympathize with both of them. And that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes it fun. But as you can tell, I'm not a guy who hastily makes an opinion. I think about it, I analyze it, I scrutinize it, and by the time I'm through thinking about it, I forget what the hell it was I'm thinking about.
Great, thank you.
Don't have a good memory.
Thank you.
Go ahead, buddy.
Hello again, Stan.
Hi.
So we all know you're the best cameo star ever, right? Well, my question is, what would have been your job if you hadn't been the best actor and creator of heroes in your life? So what would you have done for your life?
If I weren't the world's greatest actor, what would I have done with my life? No, I got it wrong. If I hadn't gone into comics? Oh, I love doing these panels so much. Maybe I'd have become a professional panel doer. I never thought about it. I think if I hadn't gotten into comics, is that over there? Is that where I should
Right here.
Over there. Okay. If I hadn't gotten into comics, I think I would have been some sort of a writer. I'd have written something because I love to write. And I might have tried to be an actor because my favorite person besides myself was Errol Flynn. Do you remember Errol Flynn? I always wanted to be Errol Flynn, and since I couldn't be Errol Flynn, I wanted to be like Errol Flynn. And Errol Flynn was an actor, and I always thought I could act better than him, and there you go.
Here you are, Q.
Hi, Stan.
Hi.
You are the greatest marketer that I know. My question is, for young entrepreneurs such as myself, do you have any advice on how to market, get the product out there, and make some money?
Yes, well, the best way to make money in comics is to be the best writer you can. They get paid a lot of money. To be the best artist in comics, they get paid a lot of money. Or to own a comic book company like Marvel, which sells so many books, they make a lot of money. I don't think that's the answer you were looking for, but I don't know how else to put it. If you want to make a lot of money in comics, you either have to own the company, or you have to be one of the people producing the comics, but you have to be one of the people producing the best-selling comics of all. And which I'm not anymore. I haven't been doing comics for a while. And I am so jealous of these guys who are having all the fun now. For instance, the guy, what's his name, who did Deadpool? Rob Liefeld. He's a friend of mine. And Deadpool is such a good character, but I didn't have a chance to invent him. He did it first. And the guy who did Wolverine, I mean, they should have let me invent Wolverine. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet, that's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Someone already stole my Team Cap or Team Iron Man question, so I guess I'll ask instead. What made you want to bring Captain America back?
I always loved Captain America. I did not create him. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created Captain America. But when I came to work there a million years ago, he was the first character that they let me, they'd say, Stan, I don't like the way this page is written. Would you rewrite it? They let me work on Captain America. I edited it, I proofread it, I rewrote some pages. After a while, they let me actually write some of the stories. So he was the first real professional one that I worked on. And there was something about him. Jack, in his artwork, made Cap look so heroic. Anybody, sort of like Errol Flynn, anybody would have wanted to look like Captain America. And then, years later, when we were doing all our characters, and we had the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and on, and I was looking to introduce somebody else, and I thought, why not bring back Captain America? Well, he was dead. How do you bring him back? So I figured out in my own clever way that he had fallen off an airplane into ice somewhere in the North Pole or somewhere, and he was frozen alive. And some people dug him up and he came back to life. But to make him interesting, he was a guy who was out of time. He was from a different age. He didn't understand hippies and all the things that were going on. He was an anachronism. And that, to me, made him a more interesting character than if he had just been a guy fighting the bad guys. It took him a while to adjust to this new life years later after he had been frozen in the ice cube. And somehow, even though Jack was no longer doing it after a while, he had established a character that was so great looking that no matter who drew Captain America later, he always looked wonderful. And then in the movie, I don't know if you remember, the first, was it in the Captain America movie that he first appeared, or the Avengers? In the Captain America movie, I thought they were so brilliant the way they got a little kid who looked like Steve Rogers, and they injected him with whatever that fluid was, and he became Steve Rogers, Captain America, the way they established his identity in that movie, I thought was brilliant. That's something I wish I had written. In fact, I shouldn't have said that. You might have thought I wrote it. You would have Now I let the cat out of the bag. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I think we can all agree that you're a legend in the comics and the superhero genre, so my question's on
Oh, you get no argument from me.
So my question's on the lighter side. What's it like to work with Kevin Smith, and will you be back for Mallrats 2?
It's great, and yes, I will. Kevin is one of the most talented guys, and he's a guy who's the most fun to work with, because he has a sense of, you see, I have no sense of humor, so I learn from him all the time. But he's brilliant, he's creative, and he's not like other people in the field. He just goes his own way. I haven't seen the script of the next Mallrats yet, so I don't know what my role will be. I'm hoping it'll be more than just a cameo. But if it's a cameo, I'll make it great. Oh, Max says it's a feature role. Great.
Thank you. Hey, we have time for one more question, guys. Make it count.
Okay, so just need your help in settling a debate me and my friend are having. If you put Thor's hammer in an elevator, would that elevator go up or not?
Anybody else have a question? Well, since I make up the rules, let me think about that for a minute. Yes, it would. Because you see, you're not lifting the hammer from anywhere. The hammer is sitting on the floor of the elevator, and it's still on the floor of the elevator as the elevator goes up or down. If you try to remove it from the floor, then you're in trouble. And this is why I am known as one of the greatest scientific thinkers. Thank you. I now have something. Max reminded me I have something else that's of great importance to follow up on. I know you've all thought about this a lot, and I want to see if you can help me clarify it or if I can help you. There are two characters. There's Superman. Well, say there's one character. No, there's two. There's Superman and there's Thor. It may come as a surprise to you, but they're not both published by the same company. Now, to give you an idea of how much more scientific our company, Marvel, is than whatever the name of that other company. I want you to think about Superman for a moment. Superman wants to fly. So what does he do? He goes like this. And then he's up in the air like a meteor. What is his method or his means of propulsion? When Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman, they said he was able to leap over tall buildings, which made sense because the gravity here was much lighter than on his home planet, so he could do that. They never said he could fly like a rocket, but I want to show you how much different Marvel is and how scientific we are. When I did Thor, I wanted him to fly, but I wasn't going to have him just do this. So, being a scientific wizard myself, I decided that he would have this great hammer on a thong, and he would swing the hammer around until it went as fast as a propeller. Now, you're holding a swinging hammer that's going as fast as a propeller. It's going to lift you up into the air. So you see, We had a perfectly scientific reason before. So I think that just illustrates the difference between the two companies. That's it.
We're done, guys. Let's have some Stanley, guys.